Welcome everybody. We're going to do some quick intros to start with. So, Gabrielle, would you like to start and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. So I'm Gabrielle Delmo, and I'm the National Manager for Nissan of Talent and Learning and Development. And we partner with Korn Ferry for talent acquisition. And through that process, we also talent with LiveHire. They provide us with our applicant tracking and acquisition. And again, through LiveHire, we've now come to the Circle Back initiative. And we're really pleased to be part of that process.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Gabrielle. And Monique?
Hi, I'm Monique Marshall. Thanks, Steve. I work with Korn Ferry and actually support Nissan with all of their talent acquisition. Work really closely with Ashley from LiveHire and her team. And yeah, really glad that we have been able to acquire LiveHire as part of our process at Nissan.
Awesome. Great. And Ashley?
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley from LiveHire. I'm an account director. I've been working at LiveHire for 4.5 years now, and I've also been on the other side of the fence as a client, so have had both of that experience. And I currently manage our Korn Ferry clients, including the lovely Mon and Gabrielle at Nissan. And I really love the Circle Back initiative, been working with Steve and getting our clients set up with that, so we can really showcase that through the LiveHire technology.
Awesome, great. Thanks everyone. And I'm Steve. For anybody who doesn't know me, I manage and look after the Circle Back initiative. So if anybody doesn't know about the Circle Back initiative, it's something we started last year. Essentially, it's 5 standards that employers and recruitment agencies actually commit to in terms of responding to applicants. I'm not going to go into lots of detail about that, but if you want to find out a little bit more about the initiative, it's absolutely free for employers to sign up to. We do charge agencies because we do audit recruitment agencies, and we can see some of them, some of our employers and actual agencies on the call. So that's great. So anybody interested in Circle Back initiative, just reach out to me another time. So we're talking about candidate experience and how we've elevated a candidate experience at Nissan. But it'd be really great to start with to get your guys' views on what does candidate experience mean to you and mean to your brand as well. So Gabrielle, Nissan being a big brand, why does candidate experience matter so much to Nissan?
I think it matters on a couple of fronts. It matters to us because we are in the business of attracting the best talent, and I think you can only do that off the back of going to market with a strong brand, but also backing that brand up with the actual experience. I think in today's world of social media, it's the actual experience that counts. And so holding ourselves to account by ensuring that we are closing that loop on candidate feedback and that our promise to deliver a good experience is actually matched with the experience is really important, because that just attracts more good talent. So that builds the reputation and it builds the attraction offer, because we match the promise with the actual experience. But I also think from a brand perspective, we build our brand on innovation, and we build our brand on excitement and connection. And so again, this Circle Back is all about that. It's about an innovation, taking that next step forward in the candidate experience. It's also about that building that connection and building a sense of excitement. So I think it matched very well with our brand. And connecting the two always, everybody always talks about this, that your employee brand has to match and mirror your product brand. But I think this is the way you make that practical. It's not just a theory.
Great. Fantastic. Monique?
Yeah, obviously second everything that Gabrielle has said. I think from a Korn Ferry perspective, it's about creating an awesome experience for not only your client at Nissan, but also the candidate. You will always have people that when you have negative feedback, you will express that to individuals. You're more likely not to talk about the good experience, but more the bad. So if you can prevent that from happening within your organization and out there in the market, it makes it a lot easier for you to attract that talent. And one of the things that we really like is you'll go through a process with an individual, and maybe it doesn't work out for whatever reason for that role, but there's always an opportunity to then reach out to them again for something else. And that's, I think, where you get the value in giving that experience is because they've had a great experience. They're always happy to hear from you. And then there's an opportunity that you can actually fill them in the correct role that will be more suited to the clients as well.
Yeah. And that's probably, no more evident than right now, where we're in a really tight talent market, right? So we're not getting the applications coming in, that we've got databases full of people that, if we've treated them really well, previously, and we've sort of engaged with them, that actually we should have pretty good relationship pools, what I would call relationship pools, not just talent pools, but relationship pools there.
Agree. And I think it's not that you have to always give somebody great news. It could be that, I'm sorry, but you're not right for this role. But just having that contact and having that communication goes such a long way. There's so many people that tell me every day, oh my goodness, Monique, thank you so much for letting me know, or thank you for reaching out and telling us. Even the messages, when you'll send them an email or a text, there's always somebody that can, thank you, please consider me for future roles. So there's obviously a lot of businesses that aren't doing that.
Yeah. Cool. And Ashley.
Yes, so from a LiveHire perspective, it's really part of our ethos. We've really built the LiveHire talent community and the talent profile around candidate experience. You have a LiveHire unified profile as a candidate when you create that. So you can be a part of 1-2 different talent communities and actually express interest in the companies you want to work for. And it's really having that talent community means, as Mon says, you reach out to them and, they may not be successful, but they're a part of your talent community. They have that relationship with Nissan or whoever it is. So when a role comes up in future, they'll then be matched through the technology to say, hey, you look really good for this job. And Mon can easily reach out and have that personalized touch. The message goes out, there's a lovely face of Monique on there, so they can see who they're communicating with. And it's also that SMS as well, which I think is really important. For myself, I checked today, I had over 1,700 emails in my personal account that are unread, and I have 0 on my mobile phone. So it makes it a lot easier for engagement, having that personal touch as well. And then on a personal level, I've been a candidate myself. I've been a candidate. I've gone through the arduous process of applying for job after job after job and spending hours sometimes on trying to answer some of the questions, and then you don't hear anything back. You committed all that time and put all that effort into your application, created this profile, which then I can't figure out how to get back into again. And then I've got to start the process with another company. And then it's okay, well, which companies did I apply to? I've got to go through my emails and find them. So I really love that about LiveHire. I think that it is such a great candidate experience. And I've also heard from candidates before as well, you might be on another ATS and tick, I want SMS as my preference. You don't get an SMS, or if you do, you can't actually respond to it. So it's really great that as a recruiter, and I've been a recruiter as well using LiveHire, is that I can actually have my mobile SMS set up myself. A candidate could text me, I can text them back, and all of a sudden we're texting each other, all recorded on the profile. So I think it's very important.
That's awesome. Great. So Nissan have been on this journey of looking at candidate experience. Gabrielle and Mon, do you want to just give us a bit of an overview of that journey, what that's looked like from a strategic and transactional element?
Yeah. I might kick off and Mon can fill in the blanks. We took a view back in 2018 that we reviewed where we were, and we set ourselves up as a goal to move from being a highly reactive and transactional recruitment base through to being what we considered a strategic recruitment that was about engaging with talent for the future. So for everybody we hire, we're not looking only at them for the job that we're hiring for, but we're looking at them in terms of where their career could go at Nissan. We're actually relatively small in Australia and New Zealand, but we're part of a huge global organisation that employs approximately, if we include all the alliance businesses, about 400,000 people globally. And getting the right talent into Australia and New Zealand is critical for us, because you do need people who can understand and work in a big global organisation and a heavily matrixed organisation. So for us, it was very much about understanding what's the processes and tools that we can use that will take us out of a reactionary model and into a very much proactive model. So, and in doing that, how do we actually engage on that journey also of the employee value proposition and what's our brand in the market? So it's taking all those things that you hear, the buzzwords, and saying, what does that practically mean for us? And our journey with Korn, Ferry and with LiveHire, I think has fast-tracked us, you know, because it's only been relatively short time. It's been, you know, three years or so. And we've, in that time, gone light years ahead. And I think the tool of LiveHire is probably one of the most intuitive and flexible applicant tracking systems I've worked with. And it also, we found really responsive to our feedback, really responsive to the needs of us as a client, but equally, I think really responsive to candidates. So it's made it easy for us to create a great candidate experience. It also makes it really easy for me as a business owner to tell the story to the business. So the analytics in it are really first class. So that's great. The other side of that strategic journey for me is very much about building our talent pool. So when I came into this role, we'd had quite a significant number of our group eaten up into the broader Nissan community, and we'd had quite a few go overseas, which was wonderful, but it had left us with a pretty low bench strength. So we've been progressively rebuilding that bench strength. And I think, again, the processes that Korn Ferry have supported us with in terms of the competency models, the assessment models, and then also with LiveHire having the process to help us fast track how to build talent communities, how to access them, how to keep them engaged, has all been fantastic, to be honest. It's been a great experience. And I think one of the real advantages for us is we're a small team. You know, we're not a big HR team, so I don't have lots of resources. And we've been able to do that very efficiently and create processes that are repeatable and that are easily repeatable. So one of the things that's been important to me is that we set standards, and I don't have to constantly worry about are they being upheld, because the system drives that for me. So I think it's been really great to have standards in place, know that we're meeting those benchmarks, and know that I can tweak them anytime I like. So that would be my summary of the journey we've been on, is going from a very reactionary transactional model into a highly strategic model that we can tweak and that practically delivers for us time after time.
Great. So Thibaut's just asked a question. Thibaut's from Israel, Australia, who's also a Circle Back Initiative employer. And just to put some context around this, it'd be really interesting to understand scale. So number of hires per year, what sort of size team have you got working on recruitment?
So I'll talk pre-COVID, because last year was a very unusual year. So we on average would recruit in any 1 year anywhere between 110 to 150 people across Australia and New Zealand, and that's across our financial sales and services area, across our motor companies, and across our casting plant. So we have the last piece of car manufacturing in Australia. We have a casting plant that produces parts for cars, and we export those to our manufacturing plants around the world. We're very proud of it. It goes out with a little kangaroo stamped on every part we produce, so you can pick our parts in any of the Nissan cars you buy. And we're really proud of it because it's adapted. It's like a walk. If you get to go through our casting plant, it's a walk through the history of manufacturing. Because it starts down the back end with the old manufacturing of bull bars, etc., and you go up to the front end, and we've got the high-tech robots producing parts for our electric vehicles. And we keep winning that work because of the quality and the standards we produce, and that our engineers on site are just fantastic. So, you know, out at sunny Dandenong, as I like to call it, out at sunny Dandenong, we're producing very high-tech parts for the future of electric vehicles around the world, and it's just fantastic. So we recruit everything from engineers for that through to financial sales, through to our sales teams in our motor company, and we also recruit from New Zealand.
Awesome.
So it's volume, and I can't remember your other question. It was volume and
the size of how many recruiters you got working on filling those 150 roles?
So it's been Mon. Mon, I'll let you answer that question.
Been good old me for a very long time, Steve. One arm bandit, Mon over here. Yeah, to be honest, it's so great because you've got so many different roles that you're recruiting for. And anything from customer service to engineering to a general manager of sales or whatever the case may be. It's a great variety. But yeah, I think from a talent perspective, it's obviously only one talent manager, and then we've got somebody that looks after all our HR processing for us, for Gabrielle's team, and then we report directly into Gabrielle from a Nissan perspective, and then obviously we've got our managers at Korn Ferry that we report into as well.
So what have been some of the sort of key core day-to-day candidate experience initiatives that you've implemented? I mean, what's made candidate experience really tick at Nissan?
Well, let me tell you what it was, which was not great. I went on maternity leave and came back, and the RPO had been changed whilst I'd been away on maternity. And when I came back, we were using an inbox in Outlook. So we were putting out adverts and applications were coming into Outlook. And as you can imagine, trying to manage that was not great. There was no candidate experience, I don't believe. I think there was quite a few people, unfortunately, that just didn't get any responses. And trying to manage the volume that was coming in as well, I think would have been really hard for whoever was doing it at the time. Gabrielle then went out to tender to work out who's going to be the next RPO model, and there were quite a few, but really the standout was obviously Korn Ferry, and that's because they actually listened to what Nissan wanted and changed their model to suit what was required from the organisation, and I think that's the different proposition that Korn Ferry offers to its clients.
Yep.
Plus then they started bringing in all these different initiatives. And one was obviously LiveHire. I was told that I never to be a part of a presentation again because I was so excited and I gave away all my my happiness when I got the presentation of what LiveHire could do, because I was like, oh my God, this is going to change our world. So once they'd obviously signed all of that off, and we were able to start using LiveHire, it really changed everything for us. It was the project team in Korn Ferry came in and they helped us actually set up all the templates, all the messages. We had to change it to obviously be branded from a Nissan perspective, consider our values as well and what we were trying to get out of it. I think at the time Gabrielle was probably pulling her hair out because it felt like to her that I kept coming back to her saying, Gabrielle, we've got another email that we need to check or another template. And she was like, I've already done it. But all that work that we put in the beginning and actually thinking about that experience and how we wanted to communicate, we've never had to touch it again. There's been a couple of things that we tweak because regulations change from a Nissan Financial Services perspective and what we require. But really the fundamental has actually remained the same. So experience from a candidate now, from what it was, where you probably just applied, like Ash said, where you got nothing back, to now you actually apply through LiveHire, you automatically get a response to say, we've received your application. And then you actually are able to see what happens from your application through that process. So if you're shortlisted, you get to see that. Obviously, when we communicate and we call you, we can then send further communication through. And it's continuous the whole way through that process. So even if you haven't been successful, it would be an email to obviously let you know that you haven't been successful from application. But if we've actually interviewed you, then we'll actually give you a call and we'll give you that feedback on why you haven't been successful. And it's just going through all those different stages.
Mon, can I just ask a quick question so the email template journey that you went on there, because that is one of the standards with the initiative, right? So if you apply for a job, you get an acknowledgement email back, and that goes out throughout the different standards. But there's email templates and there's email templates, right? So you've got the out of the box system ones that actually do the job but can feel a bit cold. The journey you guys went on, was that really to make sure that it was you know, it felt Nissan tone of voice, it felt Nissan culture. Is that what you were going through? And
totally, and that's why we had to include, like, keep going back to Gabrielle. We also work really closely with our marketing team as well, because you want to make sure that it feels like an instant message, that it's not a Korn Ferry, or it's not something that I'm just making up. Well, let's say this to our candidates. It needed to be collaborative. We needed to make sure that it was the tone and it was the message that Nissan wanted to be giving to individuals that are actually interested in, because they're interested in this organization. That's why they put their application in.
Yeah.
And can I just add to that, apart from the fact that I was going slightly nuts when we were going through that process, because I kept thinking, haven't we done this? Haven't we done this? The thing I would say about that too was, when you circle back, pardon the pun, but when you circle back and looked at it again with fresh eyes, you go, oh no, that still isn't quite right. So I was, despite the fact that it did get a little bit repetitive, it actually was a good process, and I really did take my hat off to Korn Ferry and LiveHire for forcing that discipline, because what you start with and what we ended up with were chalk and cheese. And I think the fact that we haven't gone back, I do force myself to go and look at them every now and then myself, just to double check. It really was a solid outcome for us. And the feedback from our candidates is that they genuinely feel like it's an individual email and message to them, because we really did do the work. And it is painful. I'll warn everybody who wants to do it, it's painful. But once you've done it and you do it properly, and you do it in your company's voice and in a tone that reflects your brand, and you put that thought and effort into it, it's done. Yeah. And you can rely on it.
Yeah, awesome. We've got a question here from Mark at Ward Corporation. Hello, Mark. Mark's also part of the Circle Back Initiative. Is this good? Mm-hmm. A question for Gabrielle Monique. What has been your process for gathering feedback from people who have been unsuccessful in the recruitment process?
Well, to be completely honest, we probably don't send that. We do a survey as at the end of our process for people that have been successful, and for hiring managers as part of that process. We haven't really been doing it from the unsuccessful piece. But the beauty of LiveHire is candidates will give you their feedback anyway, because they are able to jump on and send you a message, or to actually send you an email. So you're constantly getting that feedback if you wanted it or not. And they will let you know if they aren't happy or if they are happy, which most of the time they're really happy to hear that feedback, and they're really happy that we've actually reached out and given that to them. And I think that's the beauty of LiveHire. It's really easy for you to have that two-way conversation.
And with LiveHire, a lot of our clients have gone through the Candidate Experience Awards run by the Talent Board, and had a few clients that have won the awards in APAC region. And a part of that, you're actually surveying, and people that have been hired, people that are unsuccessful, people that have been interviewed unsuccessful, so every kind of point of that stage. And you're getting consistently great feedback, just because they're hearing back. Even though they're unsuccessful, you're still getting that good feedback. So we're seeing clients win those awards because the system is doing that for them. You get to the end of that process and there's visibility along the whole way. You're on your dashboard, you can see, right, I've had this many people have been moved through to unsuccessful. I still need to notify them. And we also have an analytics dashboards that we've built in for the Circle Back initiative, really visibility over what percentage are you getting back to candidates, which candidates are you yet to get back to, so you can actually reach out to them. And then at the end of the process, you actually can't close out that job without notifying candidates. LiveHire will prompt you along the way. So giving that great experience all along. And because they're not being rejected, that's the end of the line, you have to start again. You're a part of that talent community. Next time you apply, you've created all of your profile, you're not starting again, and it's a 30-second process to go through and apply for that role.
I do love that about LiveHire, that you can't close a job unless everybody's been communicated with. I think that is so,
I love that.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
And look, I will say that, and it's not, it's more anecdotal, but I do force myself to go through and look at the unsuccessful ones every now and then, and look at the comments. And I would struggle to find a negative comment in any of their tracks. I think Mon does a fantastic job of talking people through why they've been unsuccessful. because she knows the importance of the connection and that we do want our brand well represented. So I honestly can't recall a negative comment, but it's really interesting to see that the value is they know, and they really value that. They know, and they've got feedback, and they know what to do next. And I think it's not dissimilar to me about our own internal people who apply for jobs, who also apply for jobs through LiveHire with us. So we use it for internal and external. If they're unsuccessful for an internal hire, they equally want to know why not, and they want to know what they have to do and what direction to go in. And so we take the view that externals equally value that, because there's nothing worse than applying for jobs and getting rejected. So if you can steer them in the right course and steer them to know what they need to be doing differently to get the next job, or maybe they're just not suited for the jobs they keep applying for, and push them down another pathway, then it is actually a real win. It's a win for them, and it's a win for the organisation.
Yeah.
So I think, the way you treat externals really shouldn't be that much different from the way you treat an internal.
Yeah. And while we're on feedback, shameless plug, we've just launched our Circle Back Initiative survey platform, which actually you can survey all of your unsuccessful candidates at different stages of the process and all your applicants. And then it benchmarks your score against all the other employers that are using the same platform. So
that's great.
Quick shameless plug, but I'll move on from that. I'm not
I love it.
I think it's also about integrity as well. Like, I do believe that if you are speaking to an individual and you really don't think that they're right because they've said this or that, maybe it's to my detriment, but a lot of the time I'll actually give them that feedback.
Yes.
And I'll tell them right then and there, this is why I don't think that you're going to be successful because of this, and that. Or I'm prepared to put you through to the next stage, and I'll try and get you an interview, but these are the things that I need you to work on. And there's so many times where, like I had one the other day where we ended up offering that individual, but I'm going to plug my own self here. Obviously, from me giving her that feedback, she was then able to actually interview with other organizations, and she had multiple offers. So it wasn't just our offer that she had others. And then I'm like, if I just kept my mouth shut, she would have just been mine.
But on that as well, I suppose that person then trusts you. So I've been a recruiter using the platform, and I've been using those talent pools, and this was actually contractors, because you got all different, you could be managing your contractors, your internal, your external, and LiveHire. And these are people that are constantly getting offers every time a contract ends for them. You need to stay on top of them. They're constantly getting called by agencies. So over time, you build that relationship, and they know, okay, Ashley's going to reach out to me when a role comes up. I'm going to go to her first. So when all of these offers come out, well, which company should I go with? I'm going to go with the one I trust, because they've been working with me along the way. And I think very important for your brand as well. People are going to go and talk about their experience to other people, and it's your brand then.
And on that, I often get asked, what should we aim for with our candidate experience? Because it's such a big thing to talk about. It's so many different elements in it. If you ever know, what's your sort of overarching sort of goal? And I've always said, look, for a candidate, have the mindset, or build something where a candidate, your mindset is your candidate should only need to apply to us once.
Yep.
And then, and then how do you build processes that actually manages those candidates at different stages of, not right quite now, but maybe for the future. What are your processes to actually make sure that happens?
And I think that's really where the talent pools in LiveHire come into play. It's because, and we did that last year through COVID, because obviously we weren't recruiting that much. We actually started sharing some of our corporate messages and newsletters, so to speak, with those individuals in those talent pools, and asking them how they're going, how they're coping during this COVID time. And I think that's actually really helped us, and it's put us in a good place today, especially still going through this. We've been in jail for a lifetime. Actually, though.
We've got a question here from Tim from the Career Conversation. Hello, Tim. This is there a role for organisations to extend experience into leveling the playing field and helping everyone own their journey. So moving from elegant experience to capability uplift with support to help individuals own more of their own journey. Less dependence on the organisation to do it, all which is not sustainable or scalable. Any thoughts on that?
I think I get the question. I'm not 100% sure that I do, but the answer for me is, if it's about how do we help an individual, be they internal or external, own their own career path, absolutely, I think there is. And we found LiveHire amazing with this. We've been working with them on a different project that we're calling Career Mobility. They've been incredibly patient with us because, through a global pandemic, and the motor industry has been hit really hard because of the semiconductor issue. Cars today are run by computers, and where there aren't enough of the conductors to get back into our cars, and so we're low on production. So we're all struggling to manage the impact of that. So we do what all companies do when you're tight on sales revenue, you start managing costs. So while we're managing our way through all of that, LiveHire have done a fantastic work with us on building a prototype for career mobility and enabling people to map their own competencies against different jobs. We're about to launch the prototype at Nissan, and then we're actually be very pleased to hear I'm almost to the point where I've got the business case signed off for us to continue our investment in that. And it will ultimately be our ultimate end goal for this is not only do we launch it internally, but we'll launch a version of it through LiveHire externally to our talent community, so that when people are considering a job with Nissan, they can look ahead and see where that job might lead and what other jobs are available, and they can start joining us with a sense of where their career might lead. Because I do believe people own their own careers. And in this world, it's not about an upwards trajectory. It's about how do you develop the right set of experiences that get you to a place where you're deploying your capability and growing your capability. Because I think hierarchical structures increasingly are a thing of the past. I think, it's about where do you get the set of experiences you need to give of your best and to get the kind of experience you want. So I think the more we give people access to understand that and to own that, the better. And I think, watch this space.
Yeah, completely. And just from the tech side of it as well. So we're always looking at ways that we can help individuals showcase their skills and experience and updating their profile. Something we've done recently is we're actually now asking candidates, well, what do you currently do as a job? What have you previously done? But what do you want to do? What's your work preference? And then from that, recruiters can then have a look and actually see a bit of a journey and go, right, well, we're not going to put this person in a box in this talent pool if they're not actually interested in that. They want to move ahead and they're really keen on that. So giving the candidate that power to actually provide that insight to the talent community.
Awesome. Well, I've got a question. Sorry to keep on throwing questions at you, but I'm really interested in this because candidate experience, I find that often it feels like candidate experience sits on the shoulders of recruiters, right? But actually it's not. It's sometimes that experience very often goes out into the organisation as well. How have you sort of ensured the candidate experience when you're sort of not in control of it is still really good at Nissan? So in terms of hiring manager engagement, how interviews are set up, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so to be honest, the models really come through from Korn Ferry as well, and it's about starting at the beginning. So when that role comes available, it's about taking that job brief from the hiring manager, but then also talking them through the rest of the process. So actually trying to understand, are we just doing the 2-round interviews? Who's going to be joining you? And starting to get them to think about that. What is it that you actually want to get out of that interview as well? Because we've got a couple of roles that might be engineering or it might be analytical. And it's really hard to judge that sometimes. So it's about, are we going to do an assessment and use that tool as part of that process? I'm actually doing a learning and development role at the moment. And so we're actually going to get the individual to do a presentation in round 2. And so it's about working out what that is in the beginning so that you can explain that to the candidate as well. And it's a partnership with the two of you. So for me, I will call that individual before their interview, and we'll talk about what that interview is going to be like, and then try and give them some tips. So I don't know the questions, and I never ask to know the questions, because otherwise I'll probably tell them all the answers because I date these individuals every day, and we are in partnership throughout this process. So it's about helping them to make sure that they're fully prepared. But in the same sense, it's making sure that our managers are not putting them through a panel. So there's so many times where we'll have managers that'll say, okay, I'm going to add this person, I'm going to add this person. And I'm like, whoa, we've got 5 people in an interview with 1 person. No. And they're like, why, Monique? And I was like, because they're going to feel like they're being interrogated. And that's not the experience that we want. So we try and draw that back to at least only 2. And then it's about them also telling the candidate about the job. So as part of that interview process, yes, it's also really good to get an understanding of what skills that they could bring and what experience they can offer. But it's also about us selling to them as well about the opportunity, and then also understanding what the requirements are. Because there's nothing worse than somebody signing a contract and then they start the job and it's not what they expected. Yeah. So it's being honest, it's being transparent, and it's moving it through that whole process. Usually before COVID, you would probably get to the end of the process and you pretty much know that it's a given that the individual is going to sign on the dotted line, and it's going to be all happy days. Unfortunately, in this current market, that has long gone. And people are getting counter offered. Their employers are offering them so much more money. And unfortunately, we're not being able to close the deal like we used to back in the day. It's completely different. But I think that experience is really important, because when they do call me to tell me that they're not taking my job, I can hear they're really nervous. And they don't want to tell me because we've become friends. And it's really difficult for them to tell me the bad news that they're not going to accept the opportunity. And I think that's really important. They're getting that whole experience the whole way through. Yeah.
Mark's just made a comment. Can see both sides of this. So job applicants feel like we're talking about, there's a chat going on about the gift of feedback. Sorry, Mark. It can feel like a gift. But for us, it should just be part of the course. Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting, actually, because one of the standards in the Circle Back initiative is that everyone that's face-to-face interviewed, either in person or like this, gets a call with the outcome. And what we've found anecdotally is that's really helped some of the recruitment functions push back a little bit to the business to say, look, we've made this standard commitment. We've made this commitment. We're going to call every candidate after the interview. I can't call a candidate without some objective, reasoning and feedback. So what it's done is really helped that journey of actually improving the feedback and the quality of interview to make sure that we're getting the feedback, to make sure that we're providing that candidate experience back through. So having sort of standards around that has really made a difference. I don't know if you've heard or seen that, or whether you're...
It definitely helps. I mean, some managers are obviously way better at it, and they'll send you an email with a whole breakdown with scoring and everything where they've actually evaluated all the applicants that they've interviewed. And then others will give you a couple of lines, but it's about you as a recruiter then picking up the phone and actually getting further information around that. Because if you're not confident that you're able to give that feedback to the individual, and they're going to feel like, yes, all right, that feedback's valid, then that's your job as the recruiter to actually push for more. And I think that's important. And I think that's what we try really, really hard to do, is you want to make sure that you're giving feedback that is actually valuable, so that they can take that on and then they can improve.
So I think it's really important, the process, you've got that process in place, and it's really forcing that. I've got some really large clients that they put it back on the hiring manager that they need to give the call to the candidate, regardless of the scale they are, that, they've had the interview, they need to give the feedback there. But also, you know, incorporating them on your tech, so collaborating with them. So we've been seeing more and more clients are introducing hiring managers to LiveHire and working collaboratively with them, using scorecards, using the notes function, and just having, so the hiring manager actually has that visibility as well. So across the pipeline, how candidates are going, and giving them the power to communicate as well with the candidates on platform. So I think that's really important, and it's not like it's complicated to use. It's quite easy for them to jump on, and we do see really good feedback with that as well. So I think, yeah, the process is really important. Technology is important, and of course, people as well.
Yeah, great. Well, we've been going nearly 45 minutes, so I think giving some time back for people's lunch, or if you're just about to go to lunch or whatever you're doing, if there's any other questions that you've got, now's the time to put them into the question box. But is there any sort of final comments from you guys around candidate experience, the importance of it, or anything you want to share? Talked about quite a lot there, huh?
We have covered a lot of ground. From my perspective, I would just say I don't think you can ever underestimate the power of investing in it, because I think it does make you stand out in the market. I still think there are too many organisations who don't do it well. But I also think when you rely purely on, and this is no disrespect, because I know some great recruitment agencies and I've worked with some great recruiters in recruitment agencies, but if you just rely on recruitment agencies to do it for you, I think you're handing over your brand. And I think that you need to be confident that if you are working solely through recruitment agencies, that they're doing it well on your behalf, because it ultimately is your brand.
Yep.
And I think you need to own that, and you need to make sure that the candidate experience is one that, hand on heart, you think is reflective of what the experience is that you want for your customers, because they are ultimately potential customers or actual customers. So if you think about them as customers and think, is that the customer experience your company wants? And if the answer is no, then fix it, because it ultimately, you know, they become your brand ambassadors, regardless of whether you hire them or not. So I really would encourage people to take that view of it. I think there's real value in it.
Definitely. And I've got some stats here on that from Workplace Trends Candidate Experience study from Glassdoor, that 86% of candidates said they would not likely remain a customer with the company after having a bad candidate experience.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that stat.
Great. I've lost the questions. I don't know if can you guys see the questions?
Yes.
There is a couple that's been added into the Q&A. Let me see if I can get it.
I seem to have lost the...
Oh yeah, I think we've gone through them all. The last one from Mark.
It's actually, I can see it now. So there's one about surveys to unsuccessful candidates. Again, you mentioned that you don't currently do that. Is there a reason why? Is it just a system? Is there any reason why it's not happening at the moment?
No, there's no reason. I guess we've just obviously focused on the candidate experience till the end, because it's a part of that whole recruitment process where the unsuccessful haven't gone through that whole process all the way to offer and onboarding. And then obviously we're getting the manager's feedback on that as well.
Yeah.
And there's one there about putting a business case forward to the exec to highlight the importance of candidate experience. From my experience of doing that, I've always tied it into the overall employee retention and turnover and costing that out, and saying if we hire right and we get, you know, our retention levels up and we get good candidates in for future potential, because we're hiring for potential as well as for the job, what that impact will be long term. And we've done things like put into business case, if we increase the level of internal promotion over, you know, for every new hire, if we get 1 or 2 future jobs out of them, what that cost impact will be. So it's been thinking about how you can get a return on investment in different ways. And it's normally the retention and turnover stats that I play with. But I have to say equally for us, the other big thing is, being part of a global organisation, we use Workday as our HRIS, and that is not one that allows us to run the payroll through because of the way it's configured. So it generates for us a lot more administrivia, as I call it, between the hiring, the getting them into Workday, and then managing into our payroll, and then also connecting into all of our business systems and making sure the person has what they need to be productive day one. I can't begin to tell you what's involved in that. So through the Korn, Ferry and LiveHire partnership, we have streamlined so much manual administration that getting the technology solution was actually cost benefit plus to get technology solutions to a lot of that for us. And there's still a ways to go with that. But I think I would challenge you to really think about what's the administration that's hidden, that nobody sees and nobody puts a value on, but it's tying people up in knots.
Yeah.
And it must, I don't think Nissan's alone at being there. So dig for that and put $1 on it.
Yeah.
And put time and people's efforts on it.
And Mark, I think for consumer B2C brands, this is really important, right? So if you've got, in retail, but any B2C type of environment, that actually those unsuccessful candidates that are walking out of your process, are they still going to be advocates for your brand? And that's really where you can start to have a very different conversation with your CEOs and your marketing directors. Again, going back to, I'm not selling it, but benchmarks again. We ask at every stage. So when somebody applies, we ask a net promoter score question. And then when they get rejected, we ask a net promoter score question again. And ideally, what you want to see is somebody coming in with a candidate's coming in with an NPS of, ideally plus, but actually walking out of your process with a higher NPS. And if you can measure that, I think this is a really great measure. If you can measure that, that's absolutely gold dust, because then you go to your marketing director and say, actually, our recruitment process is positively impacting the brand. So we're actually doing some of your marketing work for you. Our recruitment process is making our brand commercially, generally, look better. Can we share some budget, please? Can I have some of your budget to do more of that on your behalf? But there's lots of different ways to do that, and maybe that's enough. That's the next subject of the next webinar, is actually how do we build a business case around candidate experience. Thank you, Mark. Good question. I might get you one for that. All right. Well, listen. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you're not part of the Circle Back Initiative, you want to find out more, reach out to me or look out for circlebackinitiative.com. If you want to find out more about LiveHire, speak to Ash and Korn Ferry Mon, and if you want to buy a Nissan car,
speak to me. We've got some very exciting models coming out in 2022.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks all of you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.